홍수 이나수 원수 저비 이나수 헌형진호 옴바라토이야 옴바라토이야 치신위명내 성계조서 서생저부 셔본서 소가무리부 치신위명내 시방삼세 제망절에 성조유제 부터여주 시신위명내 시방삼세 제망절에 성조유제 남아여주 치신위명내 대지문수서리보서 대행보현보서 대비권세윤보서 대원봉중 지정보서 모서 치신위명내 용산동시수불부족 십태제저신유성 오백성독수성내지 천이백제례열한 의영천이성주 치신위명내 소건동진구부회룡 욕태전동절에져서 천하정서여제미전수 절에선지시 치신위명내 시방삼세 제망절에 성조유제 송가유주 유월무진 선모대절대비 수어정내 영웅과 피로 원공법회 지중생 자타일시수 또
Life is a series of meetings and partings. That is the way of it. I think this may be the most fundamentally true quote about the great problem of life and death that I've ever heard. I'd like to say it's from some highbrow source or some sutra or other, but actually it's from the Muppet Christmas Carol. It's delivered by Kermit the Frog in the role of Bob Cratchit. When I first saw that movie, I loved that line, and since it had been years since I'd read the book, and it sounded pretty literary, so I just assumed that line probably was straight from Dickens, but when I went back to the book later, I realized that the words Dickens had written for Bob Cratchit were much longer, much more flowery, and nowhere near as powerful. Life is a series of meetings and partings. That is the way of it. 3 years and 5 days ago, my youngest grandsons, Jay and Philip, were born in South Korea. They were 6 weeks early and they went straight to the NICU. Exactly 3 years ago today, Philip died. In preparation for this child's 49-day ceremony, which I did myself as best I could badly right here in front of this altar, I made this mala. It's a mala for a child. It's made out of cheap plastic pony beads and parachute cord, and it's almost indestructible. In Korean Buddhism, green is the color associated with Jijeng Bosal, Kshitigarbha Bodhisattva, the protector of children and the guardian of those who are passing between the worlds. Every year from Philip's birthday until his death day, I wear this mala and I pray for this child. A child I never held, never touched, never really saw, not even a decent photograph. And even though our meeting was only theoretical, our parting is never far from my mind. And now that time of the year has come around again while we were in the midst of whatever this is, this period of quarantine and anxiety. Wisdom says that the fish is unaware of the water through which he swims because he's completely surrounded by it. Now we know for a fact that every day we swim in an ocean of life and death. Those of us who until recently lived relatively pleasant, fairly safe, secure lives are now faced with realities that many people around the world face every day. Will we run out of food? Will our society crash down around our ears? Will a dreaded illness touch our families or ourselves? We feel a basic insecurity, an existential dread, a sensation that's unfamiliar to most of us. Those among us who stand between the living and the abyss, like our dear Reverend Bukchung in his ICU, are already pulled taut, and the worst is yet to come, or so the experts tell us. I've also heard experts say that before this is settled, before we go back to some semblance of normalcy, it's likely that everyone will personally know someone this pestilence has taken. Trump has referred to this as a war and to himself as a wartime president, and there is one way in which this does feel like wartime, as best I remember that. Every day there's a new body count. The diagnosed, the hospitalized, the dead. The differences are that this war is here. It's not over there someplace, and all the casualties are non-combatants. We're all innocent bystanders in a microscopic conflict between the non-living and the living. There are two ways in which many people react to circumstances like these, and neither way is productive. One is to become frantic and terrified, depressed and hopeless, to beat our breasts and rub ashes in our hair. The other is to become jaded and resigned, fatalistic and detached, to shrug our shoulders and intellectualize. I implore you, do neither. Now we know for a fact that every day we swim in an ocean of life and death. This is the fate of all composite beings. I am of the nature to sicken. I have not gone beyond sickness. I am of the nature to die. There is no way to escape death. Times like these are the reason the Buddha left home. Times like these are what drove him away from his wife and child and into the countryside. Times like these are what set him in search of answers. Why must living things become sick, get old, and die? There must be answers to the great question. This will be my quest. And times like these are the reason we follow in his footsteps. You are not alone, and you are not undefended. Listen to the Buddha and listen to the scientists. Protect your spirit and protect your body. Don't be resigned, but be prepared. Chant Amirabel's name, but wash your hands. Light the incense and sit morning and evening, then wash your hands. Faithfully recite the mantra of Jaksayorebul, the medicine Buddha. Om Vaishaje 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 Samudgate Svaha. Om Vaishaje 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 Samudgate Svaha. Om Vaishaje 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 Samudgate Svaha. But wash your hands. Meditate on loving kindness, extending your love and support out to the world, but wash your hands. Care for those in need of caring, then wash your hands. Feed those in need of feeding, then wash your hands. Comfort those in need of comforting, then wash your hands. In his poem Servant of Servants, Robert Frost wrote, Lynn says one steady pull more ought to do it. He says the best way out is always through. And I agree to that, or insofar at least as I can see no way out but through, leastways for me. We are all swimming in the ocean of life and death, and there is no way out but through. And remember one thing about times like these. They end. That's the flip side of impermanence. Whether we will come out unscathed or not, we cannot know, but inevitably we will come out, in every sense of the word. We are swimming in the ocean of life and death, but the Buddha taught us how. While the ocean is rough, cling to the Buddha Dharma's raft with gratitude. And when the waters settle, remember the lessons that the storm has taught you. Song Bul Haship Shio. May you and all beings manifest enlightenment. Great is the problem of birth and death. Impermanence surrounds us. Be awake each moment. Do not waste your life.